Hey, I hope this finds you doing well. Um, we sure live in some crazy times, and I don't know if 2021 will be more even tempered, but 2020 sure has been kind of a tumultuous year. And I just wanted to share a few verses from 1 Peter chapter number 4 that I hope will encourage you and help you to kind of stay focused on the King and the kingdom. Peter seems to be writing these epistles near the end of his life. He sees a great amount of turmoil going on. They've had incredible successes and performed many miracles and seen the church grow, and yet at the same time experienced great persecution. First Peter chapter 4, beginning in verse number 7, he says, "The end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace." Well, I think sometimes we look at our own world and we think, how could things ever be, worse than this? But friends, um, Peter in that first century was looking at all of the different events, and he just, he could see it all coming to an end. And he reminds the believers not to be caught up by their current circumstances. What does he say? Be self-controlled. Self-control is of the fruit of the Spirit. So another way of looking at it is just be spirit-controlled. So Christ, who is our life, who lives in us, who is our source, we simply allow him to live through us. We don't become overwhelmed by the circumstances of our world or what's going on in our life, or become captive to all of our fears. We let the Spirit, speak through us and live through us and love through us. He says, be sober-minded. Be clear-headed. Remember that God is on the throne. He says, for the sake of your prayers. So I think this simply means that we're praying with a right head, a clear head, listening to God. But I love verse 8. I circled it in my Bible. He says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly or sincerely. Isn't it amazing over and over, whether you're reading the writings of John or Paul or Peter, that they understood the supremacy of love? Because we know that God is love. And we who are his disciples and indwelt with his life, how can we do anything but love? And you see, when you get overwhelmed by fear or circumstances, it's very easy to let that take control over what you're doing. But he says, no, stop. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. I was thinking about this because the rhetoric politically can get so intense on both sides, and we can say things and hurt each other and take positions, and be so adamant and forget, and then respond in a way that's harsh. And it's like I've said many times, our tendency when slapped is to slap back and slap harder, and this is not Jesus's way. He says, listen, you know what? Love. Above everything else, love. When you understand, love. And when you don't understand, love. When you agree, love. When you disagree, love. You know why? Because love covers a multitude of sins. And people will sin against us and they will hurt us. And love is the antidote. And we need that, and others need that. And then look, he says, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. It means just be a generous people. Bring people into your home, meet people, gather together, love on them, encourage them. And don't be grumbling as though it's an obligation. It's a part of who you are as a follower of Christ. And as each has received a gift. So just real quickly, you as a child of God, indwelt by the Spirit of God, have received a spiritual gift, at least one, if not many. He who is your life lives in you and has equipped you to minister to others. And we minister as parts of the body, members of the body, for the benefit of the whole. That these gifts that God has given us, spiritual gifts that he's given us, are never for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole. And he says, listen, you have received the gift, so use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. So we see that the gifts that we have are not to be attributed to ourselves or some goodness of our own or for something for us to be proud about. But it's a gift of God's grace, his unmerited favor for us. So stop, take a minute or two and really decide, Lord, how is it that you have gifted me? And now let me serve as a good steward of these gifts, others. Above all, loving. Maybe it's a gift of serving, and maybe it's a gift of teaching, maybe it's a gift of hospitality, maybe it's a gift of prophecy, maybe it's whatever the gift may be. Recognize that it is a gift that you received from God for the benefit of the whole. And above all else, love one another. So live in his love for you. And in these tumultuous times, let yourself be a vessel of love for others. Hey, I love you, and I'll hope to see you soon. God bless.